I thought the Philippines would be cheap. That is what so many people say before they move here. They hear stories about affordable living, low rent, inexpensive food, and the idea that retirement or expat life in the Philippines can be done on a modest budget. And sometimes that is true. But then reality shows up. And that is when people start saying, I did not expect this. In this video, I want to talk about the things that surprise me most about the cost of living in the Philippines and why the word cheap does not always mean what people think it means. The first thing to understand is that the Philippines can be affordable, but only under the right conditions. If you live simply, choose your area carefully, and adapt to the local way of life, your money may stretch much further than it would in the United States. But if you want convenience, comfort, imported products, or a Western-style lifestyle, the costs can rise quickly. That is where many newcomers get surprised. They arrive expecting everything to be low cost. Then they realize that some things are affordable, but not everything. Housing is one of the biggest examples. A simple place to live may be within reach, but once you start looking for better location, better security, modern features, or more convenience, prices begin to climb. A home in a quiet provincial area may cost far less than a place in a major city or an expat-heavy neighborhood. That means two people can both say they live in the Philippines, but their monthly expenses may look completely different. That was one of the first things that shocked me. The location changes everything. Food also surprised me. Local food can be inexpensive if you eat simply and shop wisely. But once you start buying imported goods, eating at more expensive restaurants, or choosing familiar products from back home, the budget can change fast. A lot of people think they will just live cheaply forever, but daily habits matter. Snacks, drinks, groceries, takeout, and imported items can quietly raise your costs more than you expect. That is why many people feel shocked after their first full month here. They thought they were spending carefully. Then they looked at the total. Utilities are another area people often underestimate. If you use air conditioning, live in a larger home, or rely heavily on electronics, your electric bill can become a bigger part of your budget than expected. Internet, water, phone service, and other recurring costs also add up. None of these may seem huge on their own, but together they can change the whole picture. That is something many people do not realize until they actually live here. Transportation can also be tricky. Some people assume transportation will be very cheap, and in some cases it can be. But if you use private rides often, travel long distances, or want more convenience, the costs grow. Traffic, weather, and travel time can also affect your spending in ways people do not always plan for. The Philippines is not just about the price of the ride. It is about the cost of comfort and convenience. Healthcare is another area where reality can hit hard. Some retirees and expats expect living abroad to automatically solve their medical cost problems. But the truth is more complicated. You still need to think about doctor visits, prescriptions, emergency situations, and long-term care. Even when healthcare is more affordable than in the US, it still requires planning. That is why the real cost of living is not just about rent and groceries. It is about total life expenses. Then there is the lifestyle factor. This may be the biggest reason people feel shocked. They move to the Philippines thinking they will live exactly the way they planned. But lifestyle choices can change everything. A simple lifestyle may be manageable. A more comfortable lifestyle may cost much more than expected. Some people compare the Philippines to what they had back home and assume every expense will feel low. But once they start living here, they realize that the country does not automatically make life cheap. Your habits determine a lot. Your comfort level determines a lot. And your expectations determine even more. That is why two people can move to the same place and have completely different experiences. One person feels amazed by how far their money goes. Another feels shocked by how quickly it disappears. Both can be telling the truth. They are just living differently. What really shocked me was that cheap is not the same as easy. Yes, you may be able to spend less here than in the US. Yes, you may be able to retire on a smaller budget. Yes, you may be able to live more simply and enjoy life in a new way. But that does not mean there are no challenges. It does not mean there are no surprises. And it definitely does not mean every expense will feel low. In fact, the Philippines can teach you a very important lesson. You can live well here. but you have to be realistic. That is the part people often miss. They hear cheap country and stop there. But the real story is much deeper. The Philippines can be affordable, but only if you understand how to live here wisely. If you choose the wrong area, want too much convenience, or expect your old lifestyle to fit perfectly, the costs can become shocking. That is exactly what happened to many people, and maybe that is why so many of them say, "I thought the Philippines would be cheap, then I saw this." So the real answer is not that the Philippines is expensive, and it is not that the Philippines is always cheap. The real answer is that the Philippines reflects your choices. And once you understand that, you begin to see the country more clearly. That is the reality behind the dream. That is the part nobody tells you in the beginning. And that is why so many people are surprised after they arrive. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Philippine Reality Check for more honest stories about living in the Philippines, expat life, retirement, and the real cost of everyday life.